Welcome to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. It's Wednesday. We made it to Hump Day on this April the 8th. And man, the week is jumping right along. We've had so much excitement around the Artemis II mission. And I'll tell you, this week just keeps rolling. So what are we going to tackle in today's Weather Desk? We've got a fantastic show lined up. Let's take a look at our headlines. You may have heard some buzz. It's been kind of popping up here and there on different social media about maybe an impending super El Nino. Well, you might be wondering, what is that? You've heard of an El Nino. What is a super El Nino? How rare is it? What does it mean? What are the impacts going to be if it develops? We're going to break all that down for you. We also have a look at the 2026 hurricane names, and if we do get a stronger El Nino developing by summer, that may have an impact. It likely will have an impact on the hurricane season, so all of this ties together. We'll talk about the names, a name that was retired back after the 2020 season when this list last came around. I'll share more on that as well. In addition, we have Helene damage being surveyed by Mark Wayne Mullen, the newly sworn in Director of Homeland Security, as FEMA continues to assess everything going on in Western North Carolina. We have a live interview on pest management. April is National Pest Management Month, and we've got a nice interview shaping up with a specialist that's going to talk about what you need to do to make sure you keep those pests out of your kitchen, you keep your family safe, all that kind of stuff. We'll be talking about that. And then a warning for North Carolina beachgoers, some homes kind of teetering again down along the Outer Banks. We'll let you know where a couple more homes are maybe in peril with some of the wave action and winds in the forecast. And then new images from Artemis II. Of course, we'll break down our extended forecast, a lot to go over. But we're going to start things off and talk about sea surface temperatures, because while we look at our temperatures here, they are still quite cool along the coast. Generally, our sea surface temperatures and our water temperatures in the Chesapeake Bay, they've been in the 50s, but we're starting to see some of the sea surface temperatures getting a little warmer in the eastern Pacific. And the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is warning that an El Nino may be forming. At this time, though, as we're looking forward, there are some early signs signaling this one could become very strong, possibly qualifying as a rare super El Nino with stronger than typical impacts. Here's what you need to know. Water temperatures are shifting, but it may be more than routine. The trade winds over the Pacific have weakened, and a massive downwelling Kelvin wave is moving across the Pacific. This could trigger a strong El Nino this summer. According to NOAA, there is a 62% chance of El Nino conditions forming by late summer. There's a 1 in 3 chance this event reaches strong status, with ocean temperatures warming 1.5 degrees Celsius above average. But some European modeling suggests warming could exceed 2 degrees Celsius, making it a super El Nino. So what does that mean for us here at home and around the globe? When the eastern equatorial Pacific heats up this much, it shifts the subtropical jet stream and global weather patterns. Historically, for the United States, this setup brings a higher potential for widespread intense heat waves across the southern U.S. There are more storms in the tropical Pacific basin, and that could potentially affect Hawaii. While often dry in the northern U.S., some models suggest an increased risk of intense downpours or severe thunderstorms, particularly in the west and central plains. There are often other major issues around the world: severe droughts in Southeast Asia and Australia, higher global temperatures, intense storms, marine ecosystem damage, and increased health risks like malaria and cholera. But it's not all bad. The Atlantic hurricane season typically sees less tropical activity as there's more wind shear over storm development regions. And although it does carry the risk of flooding, there's also a reduced drought risk with increased rainfall in the southern plains of the U.S. Still, the impacts of a super El Nino could be very costly. And we're going to be watching this because some ENSO, or El Nino Southern Oscillation forecasters, experts that just watch these water sea surface temperature patterns and some of the different global oscillations, they look at this stuff, they're starting to draw some parallels to some of the monster cycles back in 1997 and 2015. Those were events that at the time they happened shattered global heat records and cause billions in storm damage. So we are going to be keeping a close eye to that. Now, those are the current sea surface temperatures. What I wanted to show you was kind of where we are, and we're in a neutral phase with the sea surface anomaly, where you see these shades of blue. It's a little bit cooler, where you're seeing some of the oranges showing up. It's starting to warm up relative to what they typically experience during, the El Nino. You have warmer than normal sea surface temperatures off the coast of Peru here. So that's been the signal for the El Nino, where you don't have upwelling of cool water, you have downwelling, and you get this warmer water building here. So what does this mean? Well, we've got three phases. We were in a La Nina when it was cool here. Right now we're neutral, transitioning to El Nino. This is what is expected. And I wanted to give you a look at this. Basically, the trade winds have gone light, and when that happens, that warmer air surges back. And again, the cooler water that we were experiencing has retreated a little bit. We're getting warmer water kind of back building and backfilling across the eastern Pacific. And this has impacts on global weather patterns. Now, the forecast right now, we're in what is considered La Nada, or neutral, and we're actually expecting it to go towards El Nino potentially by June. And this is NOAA's outlook. As we take a look at the kind of the 3-month averages, it's expected to generally climb. Will it get up above 2 degrees centigrade warmer than average? Okay, if it goes 2 degrees Celsius above the average or the normal temps, that would put it into that very strong or super El Nino kind of category. And super El Nino, that's not a technical classification, but it applies pretty much when you get water temperature anomaly 2 degrees or more Celsius. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get there by the fall. There is a chance. And as we get in El Nino, as I mentioned, we get more winds across some of the prime breeding grounds in the tropical Atlantic. So having one this summer may actually reduce the number of hurricanes that we have to deal with here in the Atlantic. That's good news for us. But there's going to be more development likely in the Pacific, which could lead to some more activity potentially impacting Hawaii. A lot to watch there, and of course, we will keep you updated on that. All right, so something else that we're going to be keeping a close eye to, the Atlantic hurricane season for 2026. As I mentioned, we get that El Nino. Maybe we won't burn through as many names, but it's just 2 months away. So we'll take a look again. We've got the list of names for you, and there is one name that has been changed, okay? And I want to come back to this because you see the list of names right there. Hurricane season begins June 1, but Laura, which was around in 2020, okay, they recycle the list of names every 6 years. This year, it is being replaced with Leah. And when you think back to Laura, it was a very powerful hurricane. It struck Cameron, Louisiana on August 27th of 2020. Did about $83 billion in damage, and there was just tremendous, cost throughout the Lesser Antilles. It moved across the Greater Antilles, came in through the Gulf, and made that landfall. So a lot of damage, and unfortunately, I believe there were 81 lives that were lost to Laura. So they've canceled Laura for this time. It's retired that name, and Leah is now the replacement. So we'll see what we go through. All right, so last month, the World Meteorological Organization did say Laura officially is going to be retired. And again, that one doing a tremendous amount of damage. Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba, the Dominican Republic. The name that was retired from last year's list going forward, of course, is Melissa. And we want to talk some more about that. Helene. We're going to talk about that because we have, again, coming up, the surveying of Helene and western North Carolina. So we want to talk some more about that. It takes years for communities to fully recover from these systems that come through and do all of this devastation. In western North Carolina, Mark Wayne Mullen, the newly sworn-in Homeland Security Secretary, surveyed damage from Hurricane Helene in Chimney Rock yesterday. Afterwards, he held a roundtable discussion with local and state leaders focused on FEMA funding and how to best proceed with recovery efforts. Governor Josh Stein commented on the visit, saying, in part, it's encouraging that Secretary Moeller is getting down to business and visiting Western North Carolina within his first month in office. More than 18 months have passed since Hurricane Helene, and for families and local governments recovering from the devastating storm, relief cannot come fast enough. I hope to see reduced backlogs and delays at FEMA under this new secretary's leadership. All right, so we're going to shift from those natural issues like hurricanes and El Nino to something that you may be dealing with right now. Did you know April is National Pest Management Month? Well, now that's where the weather's starting to get warmer and some of the critters starting to get more active. You want to take a few simple steps to keep them from getting inside your home. And joining me now from the National Pest Management Association, board-certified entomologist, Dr. Michael Bentley. Dr. Bentley, thanks for joining us. Let's talk about these critters. You know, some people may just see, I've got a cockroach behind me here. They may start getting a little creeped out with that alone. Now that we're into spring, what types of pests should we be looking for?
And this is the time of year whenever we see it's prime pest season. So we're talking all of the full gamut of pests that we don't want anywhere near our homes. That's ants, cockroaches, rodents, termites, mosquitoes, ticks, you name it. This is the time of year when activity starts to pick up.
You know, in the winter season that we came through, it can create different patterns, and obviously the critters are moving around. Why is that winter pattern, this past one, a perfect storm for pests?
Yeah, we've had, I'm from this area, we've had weather whiplash this year, right? Like it's been sub-freezing temperatures, and then it's in the 80s next weekend, and we're back to freezing. And when we have those nice warm periods, that is exactly the time where it's warm for us. We want to be outside, we want to be active. Pest activity spikes during those times too. So we see activity pick up. And once those pests become active, once temperatures start to cool down again, it could easily drive them inside of our homes. So we could actually see an uptick, no pun intended, in pest activity as these pests are looking for a nice, warm, protected area because the climate's not really cooperating. We're getting this really kind of odd springtime temperature where it's hot and cold pretty regularly right now.
Dr. Bentley, you mentioned the colder winter, and again, I know you look at conditions all around the country as you're doing these things, but we had some really cold conditions here in Hampton Roads through the early part of winter. Do you find those harsher winters will kind of taper down some of the activity, or does it just drive a lot of these pests to different places, maybe seeking warmer conditions or whatever? How does that impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically what we see is, and this is the frustrating part about pests, they survive no matter those winter conditions, no matter what Mother Nature throws at them, right? So they've prepared for winter long before it got cold. Days got shorter. Food sources became scarce, so they started preparing for winter long before that unusual snowfall that we had this year and those sub-freezing, brutal cold temperatures. They've already prepared for winter in a lot of different ways. Unfortunately for us, some of those ways we're moving into our homes or structures to find some protection to survive those long, cold winter months. So when we have these prolonged winters like this, it's not really going to catch them off guard. Now, there is a little bit of a silver lining when we do see this unusual warming followed by a cold period. Sometimes that can actually catch them off guard a little bit. Once they start to wake up, they become more active, and we have that harsh, unsuspected cold front come through, that may catch some of those pests off guard. What unfortunately we tend to see more often, though, is once it starts to get cold again, those pests that have become active turn to our structures for protection.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that seems how it works. Now, speaking of structures and I guess, a prime area inside the house, the kitchen. You're located right now in a kitchen, and, you think about your food and you want to just keep your kids, your family safe with these pests. You got to keep them out of the kitchen. What advice would you have for us for taking care of the kitchen and the rest of the house?
Yeah, well, the food is the hub of the home, right? That's where we all gather because food brings us all together. The kitchen is where we all come together because of that food. And unfortunately, the same is true for pests. They're going to look for the most important resource that we have in our homes, and that is food. And there's more than enough to go around inside the kitchen for most of the pests that we're talking about. So thinking about ways to protect that kitchen, first and foremost, is limiting access to that food through cleaning up those food spills. It doesn't take but a couple drops of a sugary drink or a couple crumbs of a cookie is all that those pests need to be happy and healthy all spring long. So cleaning up those food spills as soon as possible. The other thing, too, is being mindful of how we store our food. Leftovers, or even some of the food we buy off the shelf, those commercially available containers, that flimsy cardboard or that thin plastic, pests can chew right through that. So trading out some of those commercial containers for something that's more sturdy, like this hard plastic container here. It's airtight, it's sealed, pests can't get in. Most importantly, food odors can't get out. Those are two prime resources that are going to attract pests to that kitchen.
Great advice here. Now, some of these critters can seem to get through really small crevices. I'm thinking, do you have any advice for other parts of the house, maybe the garage or doors or anything else you would pass along?
Yeah, and that's honestly the most proactive effort that you could do is to eliminate any access points. And I've got a number 2 pencil right here. Believe it or not, a mouse can fit through a gap the size of a number 2 pencil.
Wow.
So walk around your home, see how many places that number 2 pencil can fit. And that's something the size of a mouse. Now imagine ants, cockroaches, they're much smaller. So identifying and looking for these potential vulnerabilities, these access points around the home, and addressing and sealing those as quickly as possible. That's going to be things like around any of your major entry points, going to be windows and doors, but could also be areas where electrical and plumbing penetrations come into the home as well.
Oh, man, that is crazy, thinking about getting into a crevice that small. All right, we got to let you go, but real quickly, is there a place you can send us for more information?
Yeah, absolutely. For all the information that I just shared and more, go to pestworld.org. That's going to have the information for pest prevention tips. It's also going to provide a zip code locator for you to be able to use to find a licensed pest control professional in your area.
Thank you so much for your time. Really interesting stuff, and a little creepy thinking about all those pests. That was Dr. Michael Bentley. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a very quick break. When we come back, we've got some new images we're going to share from the Artemis II mission. You want to stay tuned for more on what's happening there. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. Earlier when I was talking about Laura, Hurricane Laura being retired from the list of names 2020, I misspoke. I got my numbers crossed up. It was $23.3 billion in damage, not 83, 23. And again, 81 was the number of fatalities directly or indirectly related to Laura. And that's why the World Meteorological Organization, the one that makes the list for all of these hurricane names, retired Laura back in 2020. So That's been replaced by Leah for this upcoming year. Let's talk about some other stuff going on around the country. And you can see up in Michigan, we're going to take a look at areas around Grand Rapids. They're seeing a little bit of snow right now, but take a look at this aftermath in Kent County. Again, this is near Grand Rapids. The Grand River has been rising for several days. It's expected to crest today. Emergency officials say they're using drones to monitor the situation. Meanwhile, some residents are making the most of it. You can see they were out kayaking. Now they're dealing with the snow showers moving into Grand Rapids. So you've got kayaking through flooded streets. That video coming in from yesterday. Now the cresting of that floodwater with snow showers, or snow flurries anyway, coming down. A little closer to home, we're going to turn our attention down to the Outer Banks. And you know, it's been an ongoing story for quite a while. Cape Hatteras National Seashore is warning people to be careful over the next few days. One or more of the threatened oceanfront homes in Buxton and Rodanthe could be at risk of collapsing. 31 homes have collapsed on that stretch of beach since 2020. Officials say there's potential for persistent northeast winds and the breaking waves into Friday, maybe early Saturday, putting some other homes at risk. The entire beach in front of the village of Buxton is closed right now. We're going to take a quick look at the winds, and you can see again down around Hatteras, those winds coming in from the northeast at about 37 miles per hour, some wind gusts to that level, and it's going to continue to be pretty windy through the day today. The winds will ease a little bit, but even tomorrow down around Hatteras, gusts close to 31 miles per hour, while we see winds easing up for most of the viewing area. Down at Hatteras, those winds persist through Thursday and into Friday. You're still looking at winds 20 to 25 miles per hour, some occasional higher gusts. So we're going to be keeping a close eye to that. All right, so I showed this picture yesterday. We're going to turn our attention back to Artemis II as it is on its way back to Earth now after completing the lunar flyby mission. We want to show you some more pictures. Take a look. NASA is already preparing for the crew to splash down off the coast of California on Friday. In the meantime, we're getting our first look at some of these new pictures during the flyby showing the dark side of the moon. Here's ABC's Hannah Battah.
As the Artemis II crew hurtles back to Earth, they're beaming back stunning images from the far side of the moon. This one, called EarthSet, showing the Earth peeking out from behind the moon. And this one, a crystal clear photo of our galaxy, the Milky Way.
They're just absolutely stunning, and we really hope that they are inspiring truly everyone in the world.
But NASA admits the road to a lunar landing still features some hurdles.
I think we have a couple of problems that we still need to work out, but Orion has shown itself to be a very capable capsule for beyond Earth orbit space travel.
The crew took a break to snap this selfie and take a call from the crew on the space station, checking in from about 260 miles above Earth.
Integrity, this is the International Space Station.
And it was a cosmic reunion of sorts between Crew 12 Commander Jessica Meir and Artemis II mission specialist Christina Cook, who made history with an all-female spacewalk back in 2019.
And Jessica, I always hoped we would be in space again together, but I never thought it would be like this.
Christina, I'm so happy that we are back in space together, even if we are, a few miles apart.
Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
Yeah, just a few miles apart. It is so exciting, though. What a great time with the International Space Station and Artemis II. Both of them up there. All right, as we take a look, Artemis II is getting set to splash down again, the anticipated splashdown coming Friday evening and off the coast of California. We're going to continue to monitor the weather in that part of the country, but right now things are still looking good for the splashdown. They have parameters like winds and rain and how far away lightning needs to be, all that kind of stuff, so that they can get the helicopters and other, aviation vehicles out there to help extract the astronauts and get them out. So super excited. Everything looks great right now. As we take a look across the country, some more flood potential with the heavier rains. It's not too terribly bad, but they've been dealing with more persistent rain over already saturated ground. So there is some level of concern for excessive rainfall along the Florida ocean coast and for tomorrow down towards Miami as well. In the north central U.S., we've got this storm system moving along. I mentioned some of the snow around Grand Rapids a little earlier. Nothing really severe here, but there is this mature system, upper level energy kind of lagging back along that trough. But you've got an occluded front, you've got a warm front and a cold front here, all of this moving eastward. So that part of the country unsettled. Where we might see some severe weather a little farther to the south as that cold front runs into some slightly warmer air here. Main threats are going to be the potential for gusty winds and hail. Yesterday, it wasn't really identified as much of a wind threat. There's not a tornado threat with this explicitly from the Storm Prediction Center, but again, wind and hail a concern. As we look forward to tomorrow, again, same deal. We have the potential. It's just a marginal risk, but a level 1 risk from northern Missouri back across southern Nebraska, northern Kansas, and western Kansas through the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma. And Friday, again, a level 1 threat extending for pretty much the same area, panhandles here back through southwest Missouri, so that area shifts a little farther to the south. As far as we go, tree pollen, you guessed it, still extreme. Grass pollen moderate right now here in Hampton Roads. Yesterday, 58 was the high. Today, we are going to be chillier. And as we take a look over the 7 days, we are going to find temperatures staying below average today and tomorrow. All right, you can see how nice this forecast looks. We're going to see a lot of sunshine, but we actually could use some rain. And for Hampton Roads in northeast North Carolina, rain chances appear very minimal over the coming week and beyond. The other thing I'll mention on this extended outlook, you see next week temperatures warming up into the 80s. That will likely continue for Wednesday and Thursday and then finish up next week in the 70s. Get ready for warmer weather, but it's obviously cool. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk. We'll see you next time.